This island looks harmless, but for decades it was one of the deadliest places in Britain, poisoned by its own government. During World War II, anthrax was tested here as a biological weapon. The result? Gruinard Island was so toxic that no one could live on it for nearly 50 years. And then, in 2022, the island caught fire, raising fears that the spores could still be hiding in the soil and drifting in the smoke. Today, Gruinard is supposedly safe, but the story of how it got that way and what really happened here is stranger, darker, and more deadly than you think. And it all started with a war, a fear of Nazi science, and a plan to make entire cities unlivable for decades. Behind me is Gruinard Island. Well, it's an island, just not Gruinard. The real one is about 300 miles north of here and would have involved a 6-hour drive and stealing a boat. This one's just a stand-in, roughly the right size, the right amount of grass, and most importantly, it won't kill me if I step on it. Gruinard itself looks harmless, just a small green oval blob in the middle of Gruinard Bay, about 2 kilometers long, 1 wide. The sort of place you'd expect sheep to graze, not science to poison. But in 1942, Britain's top scientific minds turned it into a sacrifice zone. In the middle of World War II, Prime Minister Winston Churchill feared that the Nazis might be developing a biological bomb. If they did, Britain needed to know 2 things: how anthrax, one of the deadliest bacteria known, could be used, and how bad the damage would be. The code name was Operation Vegetarian, and the plan was simple: drop millions of linseed cakes laced with anthrax over German farmland. Livestock would eat them, die, and the spores would spread through the food chain, crippling the country's ability to feed itself. Problem was, anthrax isn't just lethal, its spores can survive in soil for decades, meaning once you release it, you can't easily take it back. Britain was about to prove that the hard way, which is why they needed somewhere remote, uninhabited, and expendable. They picked Gruinard. So they brought 80 sheep here, tied them in pens, and set off a bomb packed with anthrax. In this declassified Ministry of Defence film, we can see a puff of brownish dust drifting toward them. Within days, every sheep was dead. Their bodies were burned or buried under rubble. Scientists concluded the weapon would work, too well in fact. They calculated that a large release could make a city uninhabitable for decades. There was just one problem. They couldn't clean Gruinard. Every attempt failed. Even burning the heather didn't destroy the spores. So, in 1946, the government gave up. They bought the island outright and told the original owners they could buy it back for £500 if it was ever safe again. Locals noticed livestock dying mysteriously on nearby shores. The official explanation? Carcasses dumped from a passing Greek ship. Few believed it. For decades, Gruinard sat in quarantine, guarded by warning signs and official silence. Then, in 1981, an anonymous group calling itself the Dark Harvest Commandos broke the silence. They claimed to have landed on the island, dug up contaminated soil, and delivered it, literally, to the gates of Porton Down, Britain's top bioweapons lab. Their letter read, "Where better to send the seeds of death than to the place from whence they came?" Nobody knew who they were, or how they'd even reached the island, but what they did made the island impossible to ignore. The stunt worked. It embarrassed the government and terrified the public. 4 days later, they struck again, leaving more soil near the Conservative Party conference in Blackpool. That batch turned out to be anthrax-free, but the message was clear: clean up the island, or they'd keep going. By 1986, after 44 years of quarantine, the Ministry of Defence finally tried to fix it. Scientists, in full protective suits, sprayed the island with 280 tons of formaldehyde mixed with seawater. The most contaminated topsoil was dug out and removed. Then came the real test: sheep. And this time, they lived. On the 24th of April, 1990, the MOD declared Gruinard safe. The warning signs came down. A week later, the original owner's heirs bought it back for the same price it had been sold for, £500. The sale triggered an unexpected problem. Press coverage made it sound like the government was flogging a private Scottish island for £500. No mention of the original owner's only clause. Cue the chaos. The Ministry of Defence was flooded with letters. People offering £501, Australians writing directly to Thatcher, and even one man who joked that anthrax was nothing compared to the dump he already lived next to. Needless to say, none of them got the island. Then, in March 2022, just as people had stopped thinking about Gruinard, the island was in the headlines again. It caught fire. Flames swept the island from end to end, raising fears that maybe anthrax was still there. Experts say the 1986 cleanup worked, and decades of environmental testing back that up. But anthrax's reputation is hard to forget. Anthrax is caused by Bacillus anthracis. Inhaled spores can kill most people, even with treatment. That durability is exactly why militaries once saw it as a potential weapon, and why international treaties now ban biological warfare. The Gruinard experiment was part of a global race. Japan, the US, and the Soviet Union all ran bioweapons programs during the 20th century. Gruinard's contamination became a grim case study in how hard and expensive it is to undo such tests. Today, you could take a step on Gruinard and walk away unharmed, but for nearly 50 years, one step there could have killed you. That's the legacy of turning nature into a weapon. It doesn't vanish when the war ends. Gruinard today looks harmless, but its past proves how quickly an ordinary place can become deadly and how long that can take to undo. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.